This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details. Man.
Box.
Time for two more.
EA. We're coming. We're coming. What's going on, everybody? And welcome to 9 to Noon and a quasi-high school football feast. It's a yearly tradition for the 9 to Noon radio show with yours truly, Paul Allen, to do the radio show from the Minnesota Football Coaches Association Coaching Clinic, which is taking place at the Doubletree Hotel, adjacent to FM 100.3 KFAN. It's an annual stop for us. And we welcome Ben Gessling, who covers the Minnesota Vikings for the Star Tribune and thestartribune.com. He's going to co-host the radio show today. What's going on?
Not much. Looking forward to it. It should be fun. I remember coming to this clinic. I've popped in a couple times, gotten a coach's pass just to hear coaches talk and learn things. So it'll be fun to be back here in this role.
We also, not only do we have high school immortality joining us throughout the show, like Ron Stolsky in the final hour, nearly 6 decades as a high school football coach, 4.5 decades at Brainerd High School. He'll join us near the end of the radio show, or around 11 o'clock. We also have a gentleman named Brian Randall, who coached Richmond Randall High School in Richmond, Texas, and he coached the 5A Texas State champions to a 16-0 record. He's speaking here, so he'll join us middle of the radio show. And new Golden Gophers defensive coordinator Danny Collins will join us about 9:35, but it's a Friday, so that means we begin with Chad Greenway. Speaking of high school sports immortality, Chad Greenway, courtesy of Grey Duck Vodka and Grey Duck Spirits, per usual, we'll share one of the better defensive players in the history of Minnesota Vikings football, one of the greatest tacklers in the history of Minnesota Vikings football. But did you know, a two-time state champion at Mount Vernon High School. He was South Dakota Player of the Year one of those years. Chad was a quarterback, a safety. He returned punts and he returned kicks. How about this? At Mount Vernon High School, as a two-time state champion, Ben, Chad had 3,118 rushing yards, 2,572 passing yards. Defensively, he had 23 interceptions.
Hey.
And as a sophomore, he averaged 20 points a game. I mean, that's like Michael Orr blindside type stuff there. And good morning.
And good morning. Imagine if I was playing on a 100-yard field. That was on an 80-yard field.
Really?
Just take another 20 yards and add it to every game I played, every long run.
Crazy.
So take all that and multiply it by 1 1/4.
Right. Yeah, I think that's how that would work, right?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So
that adds up. I see no
man's
issues.
80-yard fields?
Yeah.
Okay.
80 by 40 is what we played on, and then we the funny part was then when you go to the state championship game, they never reduced the field.
Yeah.
So you played on a full field, so you could get on the edge real quick. Right. It was wonderful.
I believe this is the second or third year that you've joined us here at the Minnesota Football Coaches Association Coaches Clinic, and there seem to be common threads that develop every single year. It's like people have started talking more about the collegiate transfer portal, right, and how players are starting to think about that even in high school, and what a challenge that is for coaches. When Brian Randall joins us, coach of the Texas team, he and his players recently were at the Texas State Capitol and went to the legislature to talk about something called vouchers that are being permitted with kids, where they can just leave any time and go to another school.
Yep.
So I think that's going to be quite entertaining. One common thread is mastering or at least taking part in multiple sports. And I know with your girls that's important and has been important. I know with you, with football and basketball and baseball and track and field, that was important to the Greenway family. Why do you find that to be important for high school student athletes?
Well, I think it's, first of all, being a multi-sport. If you look at the NFL draft every year, you're talking about football or the coaches clinic for football, it's like the idea of playing multi-sports and diversifying first of all, your body, not doing the same thing over and over repetitively, just going to reduce injuries.
Right.
Secondly, you take on different roles with every team. So you might be the superstar running back and be a role player, rebounder, defender on the basketball team and be a super average 100-meter dash runner. But you figure out, now, what are we trying to take from sports?
Yep.
Not everybody's going to play professionally. Not everybody's going to make a bunch of money and have a career doing this. Most likely, you're going to go settle into a nice career doing something else. What do we learn from sports? The value of working with people, the value of being part of a team, the value of being a role player, or the value of being a superstar, not being a jerk, and how to handle that.
Yeah.
So I think that's the value. And then all of a sudden, we always talk about the guys that make it to the league. Well, 99% of people aren't making it.
Yeah.
So you have this idea of like what values are you going to take from high school sports, and for our family, it's a 3-sport minimum, and you find different roles. So track season started yesterday for the girls. That was an eye opener.
Yeah.
And by the way, the track coach is a real ball buster because it's my wife, so she took that job this year.
Yeah.
And
More power to her.
and the kids are like, "Mom, what are we doing today?" She's like, "I'm not going to tell you till we get there." So
Right.
it's just going to give you a surprise. But you learn how to handle those different moments. And having all girls, I thought track is that one kind of sport you can look at and be like, this is an individual sport where you lean and learn about failure at your own pace and speed. You're not part of a team. You can't point a finger at a teammate or somebody dropped a pass. It's like, no, that was on you.
Yep.
And I like that.
So, yeah, it's interesting that we talk about this. I remember writing about this a couple of years ago. I actually went down to a college meet in Mankato where Chris Reed and C.J. Ham, they were both shot putters in college, and they just decided we're going to do some off-season cross-training and renew our college rivalry. So they go jump down in this meet throwing shot in indoor meet in Mankato, and I ended up writing this story about multi-sport athletes in football, and I think the number is like 87% of NFL players are multi-sport athletes in high school. And the thing I remember learning about that was it was just super interesting, the crossover. I remember Adam Thielen talking about playing center field in baseball helped me learn how to track a ball over my head.
Well, I think the one thing you look at too is you're doing different things. You're just being athletic.
Yeah. Yes.
And like it's not a sport where like it's not golf. You got to do the same thing over and over and over and over again to master that one swing or that one jump shot or that one pitch. This is like being athletic. And yes, there are other positions in football that you have to require that skill, to passing, catching, all those things. But Daniil Hunter started playing football as a junior.
Jeez.
He's a freak athlete, right?
Yeah.
So Daniil was going to find the NFL whether he played in 6th grade or played as a junior in high school. Like, he's just an athlete, and this is a sport for athletes. And it's a mentality sport more than anything. It's about, I'm going to do my job so their 10 can do theirs.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a helmet on. It's a little bit warrior-like. It's like it's conflict, it's pain, it's punishment. It's can you play through a nick, a bruise, an injury? Like, those are mental hurdles that you can't just like say, oh, I'm going to get over it. You have to be in the moment to get better than that. And then sometimes when you have failure or struggle in other sports, I remember when I had that rolled ankle in basketball and I played through it because I had this or I want to do it for my teammates. Well, it transcends into football as well.
How have you gone about that with your kids in basketball?
Just saying they're going to do it. They have to do it. No.
It's not. But I mean, you have this thing where you have basketball players in your family that are going to go Division I, and there's that temptation, I'm sure, to specialize. How have you guys fought that with your kids when I'm sure there's a lot of people saying, why don't they just do this year-round?
Yeah, I think the one way we've been able to look at it is like you realize there's only so much time in a day.
Yeah.
And so the one idea was you have to be able to go to a place where you can play all these different sports at a high school, in a high school season. So it starts and it ends.
Yeah.
Right? That's the one beautiful part about football. For many, many years, it was like, well, it's great. There's a start, there's an end. I'll jump into basketball season. Right? You might weight lift or do something in the summer, train, condition. Well, now all these 7-on-7 leagues are popping up, and guess what? Now all of a sudden football has an AAU, right? It has a travel, it has flag football. Now it's year-round because it became a monetary thing, right? We're going to make money off of it. The idea, though, is that you could play one sport pseudo year-round, basketball. Now you're going to be in track season, you're going to be in soccer season, you're going to have your high school basketball season. And the best part for, I think, obviously having young girls is that the risk of injury is just much greater on the girls' side, especially with the knee joints and hip joints. So just keeping in mind of those things of not the wear and tear, but also doing different things. So your body's moving different ways, and not doing the same thing over and over.
Why is the propensity for injury more with girls than boys.
Well, the ACL is because of hip angle.
Okay.
Yeah, so a little
Hip
bit
angle.
wider set hips.
Okay.
Angle down on the knee.
Yeah.
And that's, there's much more into that, but that's the base argument or base
Mm-hmm.
scientific look at why that happens more often.
All right, so you're at Mount Vernon High School, and you're dunking on
Mustangs.
everything that is Vermilion, and you're running around everything that is something from Sioux Falls, and scoring 20 points a game as a sophomore. So clearly you were standing out as a supreme athlete, not only at 9-man, but in all of sports in South Dakota. So when you go to Iowa, like when was the eye-opening moment that, whoa, I mean, yeah, I fit in, and I think I'm going to play here, but it ain't high school. I mean, this is different.
You remember the name Bob Sanders?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so Bob was literally the guy when Coach Ferentz came in, year 2, 3, we kind of struggled, and then Bob comes in nobody recruited him, and he's just this missile. Everywhere he goes, he's a million miles an hour, and he's just destroying people. Like, he doesn't have an off switch. You sort of look at a guy, and you're like, that's different than anything I've ever seen before. And at every level, you kind of get to that place where you're like, I've never seen that explosiveness, I've never seen that speed, never seen that acceleration, whatever it is. You get the NFL, it's Adrian, it's Percy, it's these guys that are just next level fast and explosive. I think you start to see these guys that just play a different level. And for Bob,
and you elevate.
Bob is the guy that gave me the idea of that's what it's like to play at a high level.
Yeah.
Like, if I want to be good, I have to play like him.
Yeah.
And he was 2 years older than me. Abdul, my running mate, the linebacker, we did everything he did. Like, we wanted to play like him. We're gonna beat Bob to the ball. And he gave us that's if you want to play in the NFL, that's what it looks like. And because that was the first time we'd really seen it. And there's a bunch of guys on that team that was a young, talented team that ended up being good eventually, but a lot of examples of that.
Wow.
When you talk about that and having those guys set that example, you've had NFL teammates that probably didn't come from that kind of program, or they are the standard bearer for those programs when they come in. What difference does that? What advantage did that give you to have that, as opposed to that guy that has to come in and be the standard bearer?
Be the
for a
Bob
program?
Sanders.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
I think when you are the standard bearer for a lot of these young guys, Edmund Robinson came out of a small school, comes in the NFL, and he's a really talented athlete. He kind of was able to get away with some things, but he was also the standard bearer for that university. Can't think of the name now. Where he went to school. It starts with an N. Can't think of it. Either way, moving on.
Bug me too.
I know.
Edmund Robinson?
Linebacker.
Yes. Yeah, linebacker Edmund.
Right.
Yes.
Really kind of spindly,
Notre Dame?
looking guy?
Rangy. No, small school.
Oh, small school.
Point being is he came in to the NFL, and he's realized that, okay, I can't just be more athletic than everybody else. Now I'm not going to be the biggest, best, strongest, fastest. How do I find a way to be successful now?
Yeah.
And now in the NFL, you get in that point where it's like everybody's really, really good, so the margin for error is so Newberry.
That is it.
Really?
So
Zimmer loved him.
I had to Google it. You had it right at the same time.
It was one of those things that pops in your head.
Yep.
The thing you realize, though, is that at the highest level, the margin of difference from really, really good to an average starter to being a 53 guy on the roster is so small. It's like, how do you differentiate yourself now? And it's with film study. It's with understanding your preparation, your footwork, all the little things that can separate you, because you're no longer the best athlete anymore, because all of a sudden something like Adrian Peterson exists. And you're like, oh, I'm actually super average, because that's what freaky looks like.
Yeah.
Right.
You just find a new way to.
But that makes you better.
But the guys who can't figure that out is because they've only relied on athleticism and speed, and all of a sudden they're in a position where everybody's like them.
Right.
Now where's your point of differentiation? It's like, you're going to be more prepared, you're going to study more, you're going to have better practices. Like, what's it going to be?
Well, I mean, like with you and Bob Sanders and Abdul Hodge, and here's to you, Edmund Robinson. Zimmer loves you more than you could know. Whoa. You guys are outliers. And I don't know if at like MFCA, Minnesota Football Coaches Association, I just don't know how it can be taught how important it is for those who are on teams, even if they're not playing that much. So therefore the mental work of handling, let's say you get to, it'd be more high school, where you're not playing as much as you want to play, but you're in the covenant, which is good. And then you're in the basketball group, and then you're on baseball, but you're not playing as much as you want to play, but keeping them active and inspired and engaged.
Well, it's these guys. Ben's a high school coach.
Yeah.
Like the way you talk to your team from player 1 to player 30, matters. And that's why these guys are so important in this room. These football coaches from all across Minnesota are impacting kids every day. The best kids are going to play at the U of M to the kids that will never play football ever again. And how do you approach them with like, hey, here's where you're at. Let's get you to here. Let's get you on the special teams unit.
Yeah.
Let's get you, hey, you're third team. What can I do to get better? We'll give them honest feedback to help them go improve because they really want it. And then how they respond is up to them.
Yeah.
And that's the life lesson they're going to learn eventually when they're running a business or they're working a construction job or whatever it is.
Right.
And that's why high school coaches, like I can give you several examples, but the most important coach I had was my high school football coach because he held me to a high standard because he knew that he had never seen the talent maybe that I had at that point coming out of that high school. It's like, well, this is not the end for you. If you're going to hold yourself to this level, it's like you're going to fizzle out. It's like, but you got to be here. And then hold you to that standard every day. And that's why they're so important.
Well, and it's interesting you bring that up. We're talking about this idea of being a standard bearer. I was just having this conversation with one of our runners the other day, and whether you want that role or not, whether you are the captain or the designated leader, if you are the best, everybody is looking at you every single day. Mm-hmm. So you are setting the standard indirectly or directly, good or bad. So having to understand that is, I think, a big part of the conversation I know I've had with some of my athletes, and I imagine your coach had to do the same thing for you.
Well, it's funny because that's why culture is so important in teams, organizations, businesses, whatever it is. And it starts at the top and with leadership, with coaching.
Yeah.
I remember when we walked in, the first time I went to Iowa, the standard bearer on that team is Robert Gallery, Bob Sanders, Dallas Clark, these names that went to play the NFL, right? But those are guys that nobody recruited.
Yeah.
They're 2-star recruits. Nobody. Robert Gallery, one offer. Bob Sanders, one offer to like Toledo or something awful.
Damn. You had no offers except Kirk, right?
I had just Kirk.
Except parents.
So that was Kirk's deal. I'm going to go get these guys that are talented enough. We like them. They're going to come in, and now they're culture guys because we're going to give everything for that program. So he would say, here's how we do things. Chris Doyle, our strength coach, here's how we operate in the weight room. Here's the accountability. Here's the level we set. Here's how we hold each other accountable. Here's how we show up early, prepared, cut your hair, look like part of the team. And then all of a sudden, 3 years later, the coaches say nothing because the athletes say it now.
That's the best day when the athlete, you can just set back and the athletes take care of it.
Yeah, I like to run my mouth, get a little mouthy, and I was like, you know what? But a guy would walk in, not holding the line like how you're supposed to. Like, no, get back in the locker room and change. Like, that's not how we operate.
Yeah.
I remember Ray LaFrance. Remember the basketball player Ray LaFrance?
Yeah.
Played in Kansas.
He would come to Iowa City in the offseason and work with our strength coach. That was just his deal. And he would come in, he'd be finishing a workout, and I'd be just razzing him for like his shorts and like not doing something correctly, like not going all the way down on a pull-up, because that was just like if somebody's doing a movement wrong in our weight room, you're going to be directly held accountable verbally, like right at that spot. And then you get to choose how you respond to that. Like you're going to get defensive and all wound up. It's like, no, but that's not right.
Right.
So like you are our minimum, you're a weakness until you can do it right.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just me. It was several guys had that role to say, that's our role now. That's our job to curate the culture. Mm-hmm. And there was more guys that left that program because they didn't want to hold up that end. And we were never going to be more talented than Penn State or Ohio State, these other teams that could recruit 5-stars. But we beat them because we were together. We had a culture. And that's why football teams are so important and coaches are so important.
That's terrific. Chad Greenway, along with Ben Gessling from the Star Tribune. I'm Paul Allen. J-Dub, Jared Wells, is the technical guidance for us here at the Doubletree Hotel adjacent to KFAN. It's our annual stop at MFCA, the Minnesota Football Coaches Association Coaching Clinics. And the new Gophers defensive coordinator, Danny Collins, will be joining us shortly. You mentioned film watching earlier, watching the All-22. What were some keys that helped you become good at that?
Remember when you said the All-10 for basketball?
Yeah. And you got you have the All-12 for hockey. Got a goalie in the mix.
You threw that on me a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
I had to chuckle.
So you and Madden sit down looking at stuff. How do you break down the All-10? You and Beckett. How do you break down Beckett, right?
Yeah.
How do you break down the All-10?
The way I got good was by watching people in front of me. So in college, Norm Parker was a great defensive mind, one of the best ever, who's passed away now. But he was the guy who you learn how to take criticism real quickly in that room. And a bad step, a misstep, a missed tackle, a missed assignment, a miscommunication, whatever it is, like, what were you thinking here? Okay, then you just have to eat that in front of the people that you love the most, your defensive room, right? The whole defense or the linebacker room. And you learn how to take criticism and then understand how to get better from it and not make that mistake again. That's the starting point. And then when you go in to watch your film now on your own, you can critically look at yourself and be like, that's not good enough. That's a bad step.
So that was college.
That was college.
All right, what about Mount Vernon?
Mount Vernon, that was a high school, just brat, I could sit back but again, my coach, who was so impactful, wouldn't let me get away with just being the cool guy who was better than everybody else.
Yeah.
He'd be like, what are you thinking here? What's this decision as a quarterback? Like, you took a bad angle as a safety, you went for the interception, he catches the ball over you. Like, those little things that you have to own that accountability piece when you watch film. Because when you go watch it yourself, which is what you can do the most, you have to critically look and be like, that wasn't good enough, I have to get better.
Right.
To hold yourself accountable. Now when you go in the NFL, I start to actually understand how to do it correctly.
Right.
You go with Ben Lieber into the room, right? And you watch how he breaks down his film on himself, a guy who's so critical of yourself to try to be perfect because you know you're never going to get there. To understand, like, what advantages am I looking for? I'm looking for a quarterback who's got his feet flipped. I'm looking for a lineman who's a little bit set further back, light hands, tight end deep. The second tight end, what's his angle? Where's he at? Is he looking eyes back inside? What's the receiver split? Is it tight? Is it distant? What's the motion, the tempo of the motion? All these little critical things you're looking at that can impact you making the play or not, or being a half second late or not.
Yeah.
And by the time you get to be 10, 11 years in, like, you see everything. Like, I watch a game now, if somebody asks me a question like, what do you see? I'm like, well, I see this, and it's all pre-snap.
Off TV copy.
Just off TV
Just
copy.
off watching TV.
It's angles, it's splits, it's distance, it's motion, speed.
Right.
It's like, what do you hear from the quarterback? Like, the tempo of his call. So you learn over time. Experience is obviously the greatest teacher, but you watch the guys who did it before you, who have learned how to do it from somebody else.
Love that.
And learned how to own that be self-aware enough to know you don't know it all.
Right.
And that's like Ben was the best for me at that because super self-aware to be like, hey, I'm not perfect. I'm not good enough. I got to go find these spots. And then actually look, here's what we're looking for.
Was there an age that you remember where your mind kind of flips from, I don't want the criticism because it's reflecting on me and I don't like how this feels, to, no, this is actually for my benefit? Do you remember? I'm asking this in part because I wonder where this I kind of know where it was for me in my own career as a writer, but coaching athletes now, it seems like that's always kind of a maturation process.
Remember Fred Pugich, obviously, right? Pug was probably the most important coach of my NFL career for sure.
Wow.
Maybe in my whole career. Because
super hard-nosed,
but he understood that line that if he crossed it, he was going to start taking confidence, right?
Yeah.
Start saying like, hey, you know what? If I want Chad to take that risk and shoot that gap because he sees that guard pull, because I want him to make that play for a 3-yard loss rather than a 4-yard gain. But if I'm too critical, if I overstep and take that confidence, then he's going to be too scared to make a mistake,
right?
And now it's going to be a 4-yard gain rather than a 3-yard loss. He rolled that line. So I would say probably year like 07, probably 08, like my third year, my second year playing. He was super hard on me in 07.
Yeah.
And like held me really to a high standard. 08 got a little better. And then he started to trust me, and I could feel that. And I think that's when I started to realize, like, it's okay. I understand how he feels about me. He likes me. He wants me to be better. Because even as a NFL player at 25, 26, you still have those same thoughts that go through your head.
Right.
Because he cares about me being the best I can be. That's why he's taking so much time with me. So I would say probably, honestly, like that 25, 26, third year would be when I really started to understand, like, this is my ticket to play long term.
Yeah.
Is to be really good at watching film and understand how I can get advantage. Because, listen, I'm not better than these guys, right? I'm amongst them. And if I'm not prepared, I'm going to beat.
Yeah.
Well, think of Antoine Winfield. Well, I mean, he's, for my taste, the greatest cornerback in the history of Minnesota Vikings football.
The best.
He's so coming out of Ohio State,
pound for pound, potentially the best player ever in the NFL.
Right.
Pound for pound.
At Ohio State, he was always overshadowed by Nate Clements, who was faster and who was rangier and had arms that went from Maui to Maine. And, Antoine wasn't even 6 feet. And I don't know what his 40 was. Antoine was fast, as comparatively speaking goes, but he wasn't lickety-split fast. But pound for pound, one of the greatest football players in the history of the NFL, should be in the Hall of Fame, quite honestly. But you got to deep dive to what really made him good. So what did really make him good with that film study, and whether he's coming from, whether he's a slot corner, whether he's outside, whether he's playing some form of hybrid linebacker like he did in a game against the Indianapolis Colts when they were down a bunch of linebackers. He had to play weak side linebacker, he had 20 tackles. And so did you ever learn when he looked at it, like what he was seeing and what the keys were?
Yeah, I mean, I think, first of all, you have to give him credit because physically he was also very, very good.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, physically probably the best.
Strong.
I mean, from a tackling corner standpoint, there's never been a better tackling corner in the NFL. There just hasn't been that I've ever seen or heard of. He was willing to stick his nose into anything. You see a lineman come around the corner, and Antoine would just saw him in half. And he'd be like, how did you physically do that? Like, physics don't work like that. And but this guy would watch film at every free moment he had in the locker room during the game. Come in at halftime, go out and warm up, come back in. He's
like
right back on the
iPad,
iPad, right back on the phone.
Yeah.
And when we had that technology, which came through through my career,
Right, that wasn't there probably at the beginning.
No, and then but now he had access to it. And what he's looking for splits, right? He knows in this split with this set, I'm going to get these 3 routes.
Is that common at halftime of a game?
I mean, it wasn't super common for when I played.
Jeez.
And he would come in and be like, okay, either he got beat on something he wants to correct and look at, and what did they do 3 games ago, 2 games ago? So he was just prepared, but then his preparation allowed him to play full speed. And that's really why you prepare, right? Is because when I go out and play, if I'm half speed or if I'm guessing or if I'm taking a hesitation step because I'm not sure, well, then I beat.
Yeah.
I don't care what level you're at. So in the NFL, you just get beat that much quicker, right? So you can't take that little 6-inch false step back this way and see the running back go this direction, the quarterback show you that action. Like, you got to see the guard pull, and I got to be there lickety split.
That's awesome,
right? So he was really good, and when he saw it, his trigger was, I don't know what his long speed was, but his 10-yard was elite. I mean, he's so quick. So he would see it, think like a little bubble screen pass. Like, he would see it, boom, accelerate 4 steps, and he's got to tackle for loss. Wow. I mean, that's just the way he saw the game.
Van Ginkel clearly has some of that to him.
Oh, a feel. There's guys also have a feel. Eric Kendricks, to me, has the best feel for the game that I've ever been around, even alongside Antoine.
Wow.
I think Antoine's right there. But Eric Kendricks' feel for the game, just to know what's going to happen. Again, you look at 2 guys that physically aren't the prototypes. If you go to the NFL Combine, they're like, you can play, but
that's why Van Ginkel's a 5th-round pick.
Here's what you don't have. Yeah. Van Ginkel, to me, I don't know him, just other than just a text. But to see him play, he's so instinctive. The game comes natural to him.
High school quarterback.
He sees things.
Guy. Wow.
He sees things, and when he sees them, he has the confidence to go try to make the play rather than say, I saw it and I should have went. Because then the play's over.
Yeah.
And then he got the catch and there's a 4-yard gain. Like, if you hesitate, it's over.
Wow.
You have that blink in time. And
so true.
And again, if you have a coach that's going to ride you for making that mistake, you won't go take the shot,
but not break your confidence.
Right. And also, if you go take a shot, you got to miss in the direction that you're supposed to. So, I mean, if you take a shot, if you're Antoine or you're Eric, because you have it instinctively, you see something, well, I know that ball, if I don't make it, has to be spilt out to the safety or to the linebacker, whoever it is. So if I make it in a way where it's not going to impact how the outcome of the play is because I took a shot.
Time for 2 more for 52.
Harrison Smith heading into year 14 here, back for at least one more. And I was actually just watching basketball with a friend last night. There was a Kevin Harlan call of the Browns game, I think his second year in the NFL. And I remember watching, it's like Harrison Smith playing special teams his second year in the NFL, and now he's at the point where we're starting to talk about him as a Hall of Fame candidate.
He is a Hall of Famer.
Yes. What do you remember about him in those first couple of years playing with him and just watching the progression from then to now?
The thing I was first amazed with was, first of all, as a young NFL player, he understood that film study part better than anybody. Yeah. Like, he came in like he was a 5-6 year vet when it came to film study, understanding the game. Secondly, like, what doesn't get noticed about Harry is how athletic that dude is. Like, that dude is a certified athletic freak. Yeah. And people don't talk about that enough.
No, probably not.
Right? You got a little. We won't go down there, but you get a little bit of that. He's instinctive. He watches films and he knows how to read and react. Like, that dude's a freak. Like, you want to jump.
He's got a little bleepy to his game.
He's just got a little something.
Yeah.
And a little sizzle. Well, so he has
Knoxville
that.
Nasty.
But it was one of the first guys I'd ever heard about saying, "Oh yeah, I played outside linebacker in college," because they played him at backer. Now all of a sudden he's playing the safety in the NFL. Yeah. Like, he played some backer reps in college, and all of a sudden he's moving back in the NFL to play safety. Like, that doesn't happen. Like, when have you ever heard of that?
Right.
And but he's just, again, it's just a shine on his athleticism, his preparation, and then at the end of the day, like, what I would say was most concerning for me when he was a young player is the way he played the game. We talked about Bob Sanders. I mean, he's hitting people like Sendejo. He's coming with his head. He's a missile. He's knocking people out. His nickname is the Hitman Harry, right?
Yeah, right.
Was his body going to hold up long enough to be able to become this Hall of Famer that he's now become?
Yeah.
And I think these last 3-4 years, he's really, started to cement himself as a real first ballot Hall of Famer. If this team can win next year and go do something big, it's a guarantee.
Maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago, and Ben's been covering the team since 2012.
My first year was Harry's rookie year.
14th year for Ben. And, when and Hitman had to change his game. But he had to recognize, okay, because he gets the nickname Hitman because he's blowing people up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then all of a sudden, some sketchy fines started coming in, and some rules started to change,
and concussions.
And but hits that he was making that were legit, it changed.
Mm-hmm.
So he knew he had to change. So he had to morph his game, middle of his career. From the prototypical strong safety who can play free to, well, I got to play them both now, but emphasis on free. And, I got Harry the pick man. He started picking off 5 passes a year.
The one thing that we haven't talked about that changed the trajectory of his career is Mike Zimmer. When Zimmer came in, all of a sudden now we realize that Harry is like this guy who can show us something and give us something else. Oh, by the way, he's a really good blitzer. Oh, he can rush the quarterback.
Safety before that.
Yeah, so you sit back in Leslie Frazier's cover 2, right? And you're not the same type of player as you are in this situation now with Zimmer, and all of a sudden we get Flores. So he's been now in these kind of we call them exotic blitz. Heavy, like we're going to give you a bunch of looks, but do something different. Harry really excels at that, and that doesn't naturally happen to safeties. Like you have to have a feel.
Mm-hmm.
Was a really good athlete. He played offense in high school. Like you have this thing where you see the game a little bit differently because you played all these positions and you understand timing, and then you watch film and you understand like the signal caller and what he's going to do to time up this blitz, or to, hey, I got to get out and play deep hole safety. I got to get out of this thing, and when to do that. That's a feel thing, because if you're late, if Harry's late 4 or 5 times a year. On that deep safety middle third
over the top,
well, he's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, you get beat that many times, you're off the team.
Yeah.
So he just has that feel, and I think that's something that we didn't even credit for. Zimmer allowed him to be this exotic safety that can do all these things so well.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I think now playing for Flores, that is a lot of the reason he keeps doing it. He's had so much fun.
Yes.
I'm sure you guys have talked about this, playing in that type of defense that allows him to get back to that type of wild card role that Zim first kind of unlocked him to do. I think that's a lot of why he's still playing as well as he is. Yeah,
100%.
No doubt.
I don't know if Holly has you on the schedule today at some big business, but she's making a mistake if she doesn't.
I'm all fired up today.
Yeah, thanks for the motivation, man.
You bet.
And, those
Great
of you here, Chad Greenway, ladies and gentlemen, wonderful career in the National Football League. And also a 2-time state champion in Mount Vernon High School in South Dakota. Welcome to the Minnesota Football Coaches Association Coaching Clinics. And with Ben Gessling, I'm Paul Allen. When we return, new Golden Gophers defensive coordinator Danny Collins joins us at the Doubletree Hotel. You're listening to FM 100.3 KFAN.
FAN.
Welcome back to the Minnesota Football Coaches Association Coaching Clinic. Danny Collins, defensive coordinator for the Golden Gophers, heading into his first year as the DC for PJ Flex team. He'll be joining us very shortly. Ben Gessling, nice enough to co-host the radio show today. And beloved J-Dub, Jared Wells is the technical guidance for 9 to noon today. Come on over here, Coach, and good to see you. I'm just wondering, when does it take place? The Minnesota Track and Field Coaches Association coaching clinics.
It was in January.
Oh, okay.
It's over in St. Paul.
Is it like this?
Pretty much. Yeah, very similar to this.
Well, 9 to noon needs to do radio shows. I mean,
let's make it happen next
people
year.
Have against track and field?
Yeah, we can make that happen next year. I can pull some strings.
Danny Collins, Paul Allen, my pleasure.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Good to see you.
Having me on.
Ben Gessling covers.
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Covers the Vikings for the Star Tribune, co-hosting the Friday Football Feast today, and. Congratulations on your job. Congratulations on the elevation, and just congratulations on and now learning more about you and you know the who, where, when, and why. Not everything, but obviously where you started and kind of where you've gotten to now. just congratulations on persevering, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you've really, really been on the grind during your career, which can impact families. It can impact individuals. And not saying defensive coordinating for the University of Minnesota is the last stop, but it's a heck of an anointing. So congratulations, and how do you feel about things?
Thank you very much. First off, I'm honored, and I'm blessed to be the defensive coordinator at the University of Minnesota. I've had a lot of great people that came before me, especially great coordinators like Coach Rossi and Coach Heatherman, and just with Coach Fleck giving me this opportunity. I've been with Coach Fleck now for 13 years, and he's taken me under his wing and gave me a shot at a young age. And ever since then, I mean, I've just grinded and did everything I could to be the best that I could be, and very fortunate to be in this position right now.
Why defense for you?
Yeah, I started as an offensive guy originally, so I always wanted to be a college football coach. I started as an equipment manager at Western Michigan. That was my first foot in the door. I kind of observed that for 2 years, watched coaching styles, what worked, what didn't, how the players related to that. Then I moved on to work with the offense. And when Coach Fleck got there, my senior year, he moved me to defense. And at the time, I was like, oh, man, I'm a quarterback guy. I'm an offensive guy. And, ever since then, there's something, a fire in me that started to burn, that I was like, you know what? This is the right spot for me, for my mentality. I absolutely love defense. I love the team part of it, playing together as one, forming an identity, being violent, playing together, all that stuff is really special to me.
When you're going through those early stages of your career, I imagine, there's a lot of guys that are on the fringes of a football practice whose names nobody knows, and it's probably very easy to say, you know what, this is a lot for not very much pay, and I'm going to pull out of this. What was the motivating factor for you to keep you at it to get to this point?
Yeah, like I said, it's been something for me that I've always wanted to do my whole entire life. So that dream just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And for me, to be honest with you, I didn't have a plan B. There was plan A from the start. I was always going to be a coach no matter what it took. And I just knew if I worked incredibly hard, I was going to earn everything I got. And now we're seeing that, start to pay off.
Is Danny Collins sleeping in a storage closet at Western Michigan fable, or is it true?
Yeah, that is a true story.
But why?
It's... Like I said, I always wanted to be a coach, and I had an opportunity. The year Coach Fleck got there was my senior year, and I thought I was going to be able to become a GA right away, a graduate assistant.
Yep.
And I graduated early. I changed my major to a general studies degree, which I don't know what exactly that is, but That's what I did. And I graduated. I didn't get that job right away. I had to prove myself, and I just said, you know what? I'm going to prove myself, and I'm going to take a shot. I called my family and told my mom and dad, which they weren't probably super excited about that. But I said, listen, you don't have to, help me out financially, anything like that. I said, I got it. I'm going to sleep in the facility. I'm going to give everything I have, and I'm always going to be the first one in the building, always the last one to leave, because I'm always here.
Yeah,
and,
it takes care of that problem.
Exactly, and I'm just going to prove it every single day, and did that for one season, became a GA after that, and the last 2 years at Western Michigan. We go to the Cotton Bowl our last year there, and then we come to Minnesota.
What when from what I understand, you called the defense in the bowl game against Bowling Green. What was that like?
It was a great experience. Right when Coach Rossi left, it was right at the start of us finding out our bowl opponent. So you had that whole prep of game planning, being with the defense, formulating that with the defensive staff, who we have a tremendous defensive staff, an elite group of guys that I love to work with every single day. So they made that transition very easy as well. And then it just gets to the point where you're trained for that moment. You don't really think about it. You just rely on what you're trained to do. You don't. I'm a firm believer. You don't rise to the occasion. You fall to the level you're training. And I was trained to do that.
When you're going through it with defensive backs, and you've obviously had some good ones here the last few years and have a very good one right now, what's the teaching philosophy for you to help those guys understand the evolution from high school to college when offenses get more complex, and then onto the NFL, where it's going to get even more complex for them.
Yeah, there's a fundamental aspect of it, and then there's a mindset aspect of it. You know, the fundamentals, the tackling, the leverage, how to play the ball in the air, how to play man coverage, level 1, level 2, level 3 of that on the football field. Yeah. The knowledge piece of it is watching more film than they've ever watched before in their entire life. You know, it's different. It's like going to class. You got to put in the homework, and you got to absolutely study. And we've had great, you know, the thing about the safety success that we've had unbelievable guys that came before us, right? So, you know, starting with Winfield, him passing it down to Tyler Newbin passing it down to Kerry Brown with Coy and Gooseby now. And you see now there's a standard to how we play that's been set. And, you know, now they're just off and running.
That's so interesting. It's Chad Greenway was just in here with us talking about some of those same things. Bob Sanders for him, and he kind of learns how to study, learns how to compete at the college level with those types of players. So it's the same thing for him at Iowa, where it's players that came before tell you this is how this has to be done, and then you have to carry it on.
Absolutely.
What, Danny, what are some underrated facets of Coy Parrish that maybe the listeners wouldn't know? I mean, because it's like he's from Minnesota. He's been loud with the transfer portal being just all the rage, all over the place. You know, being like, no, I'm here, you know, and I want to be here, and I want to stay here, and I want to make my mark. I want the school to make its mark here with me. But clearly, you know, I'm not going to put him in the class of Travis Hunter, but clearly there's an all-around skill set this young man has that takes something nobody can see to get there. What would you think that is?
The biggest thing with Coy, his mindset is different. He's wired different. There's a confidence about him. He loves football. You know, that's the thing. When I first watched him play and driving, you know, 2 hours north to watch him play in Duluth and Esco and to see him, it wasn't about him making plays. It was about how he made the play, right? It was about him on the sideline of after he made the play, like to see that confidence in him, to see him take his teammates to the next level, right? That's when you know that's a really special player, when he takes his team to a level they couldn't get without him being there. And that was so special for him to come here. He saw the vision that we have of going to the college football playoff, and he wants to do that, and he wants to help us get there. And I think the way he's wired, that confidence that he has about him, that's what separates him. I mean, at the end of the day, he came here to play safety here, to get developed, and to be in our culture with Coach Fleck, and that's why he continues to stay.
Danny Collins, new defensive coordinator for P.J. Fleck's Golden Gophers football program. Ben Gessling, Paul Allen at the MFCA, Minnesota Football Coaches Association Coaches Clinics. And this is a yearly stop for this radio show, 9 to noon. You spoke at 8:30. What was the topic?
Yeah, we talked about our defensive DNA. So, you know, this year we've created something that's called the Havoc defense. So that is something that we've named, just like Coach Fleck has, you know, row the boat and the hyperculture. We have Havoc defense. So the H stands for the how. How we play is going to be different. We say on defense, the how is an eraser, right? Sometimes a play might get out. Your how, that's erasing points off the board.
Oh, that's
Line
sweet.
up, play again. Right? The A is attack, because we're going to attack people. I've attacked my whole life. I've attacked to get here. We're going to be an attacking style defense, right? When we do attack, we're going to attack with violence, right? That's the V. We play a violent game.
Wow.
We're going to be violent every single play. The O is one, because we're going to play together as one. I think that piece of being a defense, and I think that's the greatest characteristic of a defense, is playing together. You know, doing it for your brother, right? That's everything. And then the C is compete. We're going to compete in everything we do, whether that's a drill, whether that's being the first one to meetings. We're going to compete in everything. And if we can do that, we can form that identity, we're going to find success on Saturdays.
You know, I would imagine whether you're new or not, knowing what the head coach wants is 10 of 10. I mean, Danny Collins may have struck up a relationship in Eden Prairie with Brian Flores. Now all of a sudden there's a 3-4 with hybrids, and you got safeties playing corners and corners playing linebacker, 7 strewn across the line of scrimmage, deception. You know, hey, wow, I got this figured out. Brian, help me. Cool. which we may use, but here's the example. Like Kevin Stefanski, are you familiar with him?
Yep.
Cleveland
Absolutely.
Browns head coach.
Yes.
He was the offensive coordinator here nearing the end of the 2018 season. The Vikings hired an offensive coordinator. It didn't work out. He got fired before he finished his first year. So the first game, the Vikings play Miami at U.S. Bank Stadium. Well, running was a problem with the previous regime, supposedly, and Zimmer was all frustrated about it. First game was Stefanski calling the plays. I think they run for 246. Dalvin might go for 140, 150.
Put up like 42 points, I think.
Yeah. And so after the game, I was talking to Kevin, and I'm like, who knew? I mean, he's like, the number one role of my job is to know what the head coach wants and to put the I behind me and recognize the thy matters more than what I want to do. And I'm like, I've never heard that. But that's like with you and PJ, you may want to do some things, and I'm sure you will, but that's very important, isn't it?
That is very important. You know, the cool thing with me being with Coach Fleck for a long time is you're exactly right. I know exactly what he wants. You know, we've played a style of defense here where maybe it's not the same scheme every single year, but it's the same style.
Sure.
Right? At the end of the day, like how we win at Minnesota, right, there's a formula to that, right? And I understand what Coach Fleck wants offensively and how defensively, how we can help with that. Right, and I think that's a huge part of that is continuing to get him exactly what he wants, because at the end of the day, I know the formula, what it takes to win at Minnesota, and to win with Coach Fleck and the style of defense he wants to play with.
All right, a couple of quickies to close here with new Gophers defensive coordinator Danny Collins. Simplistic questions. How does the defensive coordinator know when to blitz?
Well, I think there's a feel. Sometimes there's down and distance indicators. Sometimes, certain things. I think whoever you're playing against, I think you got to know exactly who you're playing, who's calling the plays. You know, we study I study offense coordinators just like I study the offense itself.
Sweet.
Right? Because I need to be one step ahead. And if I'm not one step ahead, I'm two steps behind.
Yeah.
When you're going through all of the study from that, I guess, how do you teach players to study at that level? I mean, the idea of learning to study in college seems like probably one of the bigger adjustments. How do you take a freshman who has not had to do this, and maybe it's just gotten by on talent in some cases, say, here's how you learn how to actually study and master this?
Yeah, we talk about this all the time. There's a required and there's an unrequired, just like school, right?
Sure.
If you do the required in college football, you're going to be okay. You're going to be an okay player. But if you do the unrequired, that's the homework, right? That's what gets you to be an elite player.
Wow.
Right? So, that's where it goes back to the guys before them that are teaching them these things is, I've seen more than I ever have guys where I'll walk into a meeting room and there will be a senior with a freshman teaching them how to watch film, right? And that's the stuff where, as coaches, we're doing that as much as possible, but now our players are doing that, right? And when you can develop that standard of football within your program, and that's what we've done now for 9 years. It's taken us 9 years, right, to get there with this defense, with this program. That's when guys are able to take off.
Makes your job easier too.
Absolutely.
And by the way, you have to recruit even outside of recruiting season, and I'm talking about your own players. I would imagine it's like that, like you all, because of the portal. You constantly, I would imagine, are having to re-recruit those who aren't playing as much as they thought they would play because you see a vision they can't see. You want them to stay, but they may be like, hey, I can go over here and, this may happen. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, that's the day and age in college football right now, But at the end of the day, it goes back to the culture you've built, right? How strong is that? And I think what we've done at Minnesota is built such a strong culture that these guys stay for multiple reasons, right? Because, number one, we really have a strong culture. Number two, we're really connected as a football team, right? And then they understand the vision. Everybody has to have the same vision, right? And that goes all the way in recruiting. The cool thing is I know exactly what works here at Minnesota. If I'm recruiting a guy and I don't think he's going to fit in the program, I'm done. I'm on to the next one, right? Because it's not going to work in the end, right? So we've done a great job at understanding what works here and getting those guys in the program, developing them seeing the vision, and then going to where we need them to go.
Danny, if you're in a hurry, then we'll make this fast. But it's simplistically speaking, from a defensive coordinating standpoint, Tampa 2, cover 2 defense. Okay, so you rush 4, you got 4 up there, you drop 7, get tricky with it. Is it too simplistic to say if you have 2 good rushing ends and a good 3 technique, a good pass rushing defensive tackle. So I'm thinking the 09 Vikings. You got Ray Edwards over here with Brian Robinson. You got Jared Allen. You got Kevin and Pat Williams. Kevin was a creature, 3 technique, big. And then you can drop, Leslie Frazier liked to drop 7. Is it too simplistic to say that that's what every defensive coordinator wants to do mostly, but you got to have the right components on the rush, right?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's not about the scheme, right? It's about the personnel, right? So what personnel do I have to execute the scheme, right? If it was, the mentality was to just rush 4 and drop everybody else and play cover 2, right? If we don't have the rushers there, it's not going to work, right? So it depends on the personality of the team, the personnel, exactly what our strengths are. If we don't have, that's the perfect scenario. If we can just rush 4, get to the quarterback, that's awesome. We can rush 3. I'd rush 3 and do that, right? And squeeze the pocket, right? But it just depends on the personnel, the defense, right? And then I think there's times still, even if you have that, heat them up, right? Be an attacking style defense. I want the offense on their toes. I want the offensive coordinator on their toes. I want them off track. I want them to panic, to have fear. That's what Habit's all about. It's 60 minutes of hell.
My man, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
That was fantastic. Let's do it again sometime,
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it.
That's,
Thanks so much.
That's Danny Collins, new Golden Gophers defensive coordinator from the Minnesota Football Coaches Association Clinics on KFAN. That was a fun hour from the Doubletree Hotel and the Minnesota Football Coaches Association Clinics. Ben Gessling is the co-host, and I'm Paul Allen. Quick little sports update for you regarding sports on the local scene. Just to do a Covenant catch-up while all the coaches go to their next meetings, and we await somebody very interesting. Brian Randall. In just the 3rd year of a varsity program in Texas, his Richmond Randall football team won Class 5A, Division II in Texas, which ain't easy. And it was a big upset. And on coaching and technique and student athletes and stuff like that, really, really looking forward to chatting with him around the corner. He's here speaking at the Coaches Association Clinics. But first, your Minnesota Twins lost their season opener at St. Louis 5-3. Former Twin Sonny Gray beat his former team, and new Twin Harrison Bader hit a 2-run home run against his former team, the St. Louis Cardinals. These teams, it was so fatiguing and so exhausting yesterday that after the 5-3 game, both teams have the day off, and they'll be back at it tomorrow. So the Twins start 0-1. The Timberwolves host Phoenix this evening. 9 to go for the Wolves, 8th in the conference, still in the disease play-in, basically tied with Golden State for the 7th, and the LA Clippers for the 6th. The Warriors are at New Orleans this evening, and the LA Clippers are at Brooklyn. The Minnesota Wild beat Ovi.
Boldy steals in his slot and feeds Hinostroza, chip and chase. A Notre Dame product, Vinny Hinostroza, busts in after it. Sandin bottled him up. It came free silent, and they score! Boldy with 7.6 seconds to go! Fouled the loose puck, deked around Lindgren, wrapped it upstairs, and the Wild have a 3-2 lead.
Baldy with the goal, Joe O'Donnell with the call, and yours truly not trying to channel my inner Jacques Lemaire. But when I watched that game last night, my man Hinostroza, holy cow, did he have himself a nice game last night. And with 9 to play, our Christmas colors, the beloved Wild, two points clear of St. Louis for the top wild card, 7 clear of Vancouver, and the Calgary Vancouver is currently on the outside looking in. So that was a big win last night for Heinze's squad. And speaking of hockey, there was drama in Fargo last night.
Here comes Gessling. He carries the center. He's tripped. How do you not call this? I know it's overtime, but for crying out loud, he's got the puck and he's tripped. Meanwhile, back comes Mass. They shoot. They score! Oh, my God. What poor officiating. Gessling's trip falls down. No penalty is called. UMass immediately turns it back up ice, and they score in overtime at 4:49 and win the game.
You can't make it up. Wally Shaver with an elite call. Shields Arena in Fargo. The Golden Gophers in the NCAA tournament. Massachusetts Minutemen. It's a spine tingler. Motzko squad blows a 2-goal lead, but that's hockey. And we're early in overtime, and you can go find the clip anywhere on social media if you missed it. There was a blatant tripping near center ice that was missed. And, of course, Minutemen come the other way. The guy who executed the trip ends up getting an assist on the postseason winning goal. What a bad beat last night for the Golden Gophers in very controversial fashion. And the Big Ten went bust yesterday, quite honestly. Gophers lose to UMass. Also, top-seeded Michigan State was upset, and Ohio State was buried by BU, and also Mankato State, not in the Big Ten, but Mankato State lost a spine tingler in double overtime to Western Michigan. So the way things went yesterday, controversial or not, that was a kick in the old state of hockey. When 9 to noon continues, let's meet Coach Brian Randall up here from Texas. And we are at the Minnesota Football Coaches Association clinics adjacent to KFAN. And you're listening to your favorite radio station, The Fan.
You know, some people say that Odoo business management software is like fertilizer, the way it promotes growth and all. But other people say Odoo is like a magic beanstalk because it grows with your company and is also magically affordable. And there's some people who would even say Odoo's individual software programs come together to build the perfect suite like building blocks. Well, Odoo is all of these things. Fertilizer, magic beanstalk, building blocks for business. So sign up now at odoo.com, ODOO.com.